Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to sit down and chat to amazing humans about their journeys and stories. For this episode, I'm very happy to introduce Mark Cuschieri to the conversation. Welcome, Mark.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's wonderful to
And you
have.
pronounce my surname perfectly, Mara.
Oh, thank you. I always get anxiety about mispronunciation of surnames or names. So thank you, Mark.
All good.
That's the only time I'll pronounce your surname, by the way. So it won't happen again.
I've
Um,
been called worse.
I'm sure, as we all have. So as I always do, just very briefly, I'll just introduce how Mark and I know each other for those who don't know Mark. And then I'll let you do a little introduction, Mark, about who you are, what you do, and then we'll talk about the big topics of mental health and the journeys and everything else that goes with it. So Mark and I have known each other for quite a few years, actually, through the business travel industry world. My past life, regressing back to many moons ago, before I had white hair, and so we've known each other for a long time through the industry. Followed each other. We don't see each other very often, but it's always lovely when we do get to see each other. I always have a hug with Mark, which is always really nice. Thank you, Mark. You're a great hugger. And yeah, so we just talked about what we can do to talk about mental health, come together, two guys having a chat about mental health, which is also really nice. So thought we'd get together and do this episode. So thank you, Mark, for agreeing to join me. I know you've got a million things going on in your world, but tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure, pleasure. And again, Matt, thank you ever so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I love listening and watching your podcasts as well. So thank you. I'm honored to actually be on with you. So Marcus Geary, at present global head of travel for UBS and the current president for GBTA. I've been in the industry. God, you say we've known each other for a long time. I've been in the industry for 30 plus years. I came in this industry when I was 18 years old, issuing manual tickets, paper tickets, those good old days. Um, and yeah, that's me, 30 years and love giving back. I
Yeah.
really love giving back. And you and I know, we've, as you said, known each other for a number of years. And for me, people's a really important part of what we do.
Brilliant. And, we'll touch on a little bit of those journeys and stories that you just mentioned there briefly as well, especially on the GBTA change that you've gone through this year. And, you're there to support people, which is an amazing thing, which is one of the reasons why I did want to talk to you as well about this, because there's, when we talk about people, this is what it's all about. It's about humans and human experiences and journeys. So as always, for any guest that joins me on this podcast, Mark, tell us a little bit about a journey for you, a story for you, something, we link it into mental health. We'll have a conversation, sort of see where we flow from there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's something that people maybe don't know about me, right? So we were talking about this previously, Matt. 10 years ago, I think I'll show my age now, really, 40 odd. And went into work one day, normal day, and I keeled over and had a stroke. And fortunately, here I am, fit as ever. Life is fantastic, and it honestly couldn't be better. Um, I appreciate life more so than I ever have. I don't take life too seriously, um, but what I would say from a mental health, those initial days, months, even maybe years, I struggled.
Yeah.
I struggled to accept what having a stroke meant. More, that was beating myself up, actually, Matt, because it was my worry, it was my concerns rather than any outside influences to that. My company were amazing. My boss was fantastic at the time, even came in an ambulance with me, came to hospital, sat by my bedside until I was seen. So, I owe a lot to people, but I beat myself up because I was worried, very ambitious, career driven, and I was worried about what would that do for my career? Would people treat me differently? I was in denial, actually. I was in denial. I didn't accept that there was I 40, and I had a stroke, a minor stroke, but a stroke. And I'll never forget when I was in hospital, and a nurse, and because I was in denial, and she was shouting at me and saying, because I wanted to leave the hospital, because I wouldn't accept, there are people worse than me. What am I doing here? And I hope I don't go off on tangent, but and she said to me, if you weren't here in 10 years' time, you would be here, far worse. So it's better that you were here now and we're able to help you and do something about it and man up. And
Right.
I'll never forget her telling
Yeah.
me that. The best words she ever said. And now, when people ask me, and I have been in situations where, tell us something that people don't know about
Yeah.
you. And I tell them, I had a stroke when I was 4. And people are either in shock. And I say, don't feel sorry for me. I'm really fine. But initially, I would hide it. I didn't
Yeah.
want anyone to know because I was worried that maybe people would treat me differently, or they think, oh, or he might not be able to do that. We can't put pressure on him.
Yeah.
And you manage. And the more you talk about it, I found the more I talk about it, the better I was. And it's the awareness, right? Awareness groups. And then I realized that actually having a TIA, which it was, there's a percentage
Hmm.
of younger people that are affected by having strokes through younger people. And I got involved with a group, and I even, from a charitable, I did my first half. I had targets. I set myself targets, and
Yep.
unlike someone I know who runs marathons, and yes, there you go, yeah,
No.
PBs. I was never a runner,
Yeah.
never ran, never couldn't even think the worst thing to get out and run.
Yeah.
I love running, and I set myself a challenge to do a half marathon, and I did, and I'll never forget crossing that line, and I was emotional because I felt I did something, that challenged me. And the reason why I say that, because it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. There are things that people don't know about other people, but it's okay to talk about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so
Definitely.
that's one thing that maybe people don't know about me, but I'm
Just
okay. I'm all right.
yeah, it's you know what, Mark, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Really do. And you shared it with me before we recorded, which I didn't know. So it was a surprise to me as much for the second time. Actually, it's still as much as a surprise because I'm thinking, this is what life is all about, and what I love about this opportunity to sit down and chat to people like yourself and everybody that I've had the chance and the pleasure and privilege to do is we're learning a little bit more about the depth of people, and I think that's sometimes what we miss, isn't it? On the outside, people see the experiences and the professionalism and the work that we do, but they don't often see what's going on inside. And what I find fascinating in there, Mark, if it's okay to just talk about it a little bit, is those first movements where you said, I was worried about what that meant for me, for my career, for my opportunities and everything. And that is something actually we hear a lot around people who struggle with mental health and, with a mental illness, not just, I'm not saying not
Yeah.
just a physical thing, but do you know what I mean? And what would you say was the thing that connected you to others in that moment? Or did you just feel isolated and alone? And
No,
what
I
did
think I created that myself. I created that isolation myself because I felt, I was, as I said, I was beating myself up. I was
you,
thinking things that just didn't happen, and it, it was me creating that worry. Right? No one else was influencing that. No one was doing that. It was me really. And But then, listening to other people
yeah,
helped me in terms of understanding that it's okay. And there were people in a worse position than me, but were very happy to say to me, you know what, Mark, life will get better. Life
yeah,
will get better. And it really will. And that's when I talk about being able to talk about things
yeah,
is really, I have a passion for I think I care for people, right? And the travel industry is about people, and your greatest asset in any organization is people.
Yep.
If you look after people, people look after your organization. And sometimes you just need to take a step back from the day to day. And so I initially, by talking to people and with the awareness group that I got associated to, it started to break down some barriers where they said, you know what, it's all the more you talk about it, the better you will feel.
Yeah.
And actually, that was true. That was the reality. So I I have no qualms in telling people, if they ask. And also I found when people were telling other people who they knew had a stroke, if I would contact them and let them know, that life's okay and how could I help them as well. And sometimes, it might be easier to say, but sometimes it's just listening, and people just want to listen, and that's half the battle, right? I
Yeah,
think.
I think you're reading some of my stuff from somewhere. That is ultimately what it all rolls into, isn't it? Is, think about it. You've got two ways. You're either listening to yourself, which is quite dangerous if you're in that,
Mhm.
in that headspace, or somebody's listening to you and you're offloading it. And it is that sort of like pressure release sometimes. And I want to ask you a question. And as you were sort of talking about it, and I hope you're okay with this. So
Yeah.
before this incident happened, before this crisis happened for you, what was going on? Would you have recognized things differently? Did you feel that it sort of changed you? Because that's the thing that always you tend to find, isn't it? You have a life moment where something changes,
Yeah.
and then you reflect, you think about, how would you have seen
It, it did. It really did. And I said, previously, I don't take life too seriously, and I meant that in the right context, right? I feel I might get melodramatic a bit. Life's too short.
Yep.
Enjoy the moments, and you, you know, I worry less about things,
Okay.
um, because I treasure what I have,
Yep.
and sometimes maybe I took that for granted. I think I did. Actually, I think I did take things for granted. Whereas now, you know, every new experience I have, I'm blessed to have, and I also, I think I was worried about saying the word no before. I was worried about not being able to have a response or able to do something. And I always say to people, it's okay to say no. It's okay not to know something. Yeah, I think we're resourceful and we can find ways, and it's okay. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. And you learn from that and those learning experiences that you get. So for me, I actually treasure moments more than what I did, and feel that every new experience, every new connection I make is just I welcome that. So I do feel that I don't think take things for granted as much as I used to. Maybe blasé, maybe I was in the past. I don't know. Um, I actually try to engage with more people. I love meeting new people, and I wear my heart on my sleeves. I really do, and I think Matt, we've known each other for a long time. I say things as they are,
Yep.
not correctly, but that's fine. Um, I believe hierarchies are there for obviously reasons, but we're all human. We all make mistakes in life, and I treat everyone the same. And that to me is really important. So it it was a life. It wasn't a life changing, but
Yeah.
I looked back and thought, life is
Well, it's
life
an agility, isn't it?
precious. Absolutely. Yeah.
Could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. And actually, yes, I think over the first few days and months, I felt like, I was worse than anybody else. But actually, it was, I think, time telling me, hey,
Slow it down
hey,
a bit.
yeah, absolutely. but in a way that wasn't detrimental either to my work and my life. I didn't. I just cared more for life.
Wow. And I think that's it, isn't it? And there's an incredible parallel in the world that I came from and you're in, and where you went with that journey and where I was with my journey. And I think, you know, what I try to help people to say is, look, try to be mindful of everything now, rather than wait for something to happen to then go, oh, I need to be mindful of this situation, or what I'm doing, or the way that I'm living my world. And it is interesting, isn't it? Maybe there's a convergence to this thought of turning into sort of a 40-year-old, because it was about the same age I was when things started to change as well. And, you know, I don't know, maybe there is something in that, and who knows?
Maybe things happen for a reason.
Well,
I
definitely.
you know,
We wouldn't be having this conversation if I hadn't been through an experience, you hadn't been through the experience. And do you know what I mean? And so they do happen for a reason, definitely.
100%. I think it gives you more awareness as well. And you know, I think it's really important that you take time out, you listen, you you know, you care for how people's day has been. You're able to laugh, you're able to joke. Um, you know, sometimes we forget about having fun. Can still work hard, can still have fun at the same time. Be you, you know. And maybe sometimes before, I think maybe I was trying to pretend I was somebody else. Or I don't know. You know, you keep on having these moments, and you think, but
Yeah.
I am me. Yeah, I am me.
I think it the
I
word.
certainly don't know everything at all, and sometimes, you know, there's sort of imposter syndrome, right? You think, what am I doing in this in Israel? You know, why are people thinking I'm, you know, this and that, and like, wow, you're in this position, etc. I'm no better than anybody else. You know, I've put myself forward. I like to give back to an industry that's been amazing to me. Um, and volunteering, I feel very passionately about volunteering. And if I can make a difference in any shape or form, um, I will try to do so. And I also believe in continuous learning. Doesn't matter how long you've been anywhere, doesn't matter how old you are continuously learning. And, you know, that to me is something that, you know, really is, I think, helped me, because the world we live in is constantly changing and evolving. And no one, doesn't matter how long you've been in an industry, an organization, I have a passion for learning new things. So, you know, that's really why I decided also to put myself forward and put myself out there to be a GBTA president, you know, first non-American, which, yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of that. Of course, I am. But it was something felt it was important, not to me, but I think important to the industry as well. For me, and you know, putting the G in GBTA's Global Business Travel Association, I think was important. And to be able to represent all regions, all people, different corners of the world. And I certainly don't know everything. But what I do know is the importance about better understanding people in different regions with people, different nuances, and business travel um, you know, does have significant nuances. You know, the world's not flat. It doesn't speak with one language, and it certainly doesn't have one currency, and it certainly has many rules. And so, you know, I don't sit here and saying I understand that, but I think we have a duty to ensure that how do we create that knowledge bank for people to know more about things that they don't, or place that they live. And I see that the same about mental health and well-being, and the importance of that in society, in business travel. And I think we've only really touched the surface, to be honest, as well, Matt. And I don't say I have the answer either.
And you know, I don't either. And I think I have parts of the answer. I think there's a few of us that have the pieces to the jigsaw. It's like the bring them from all four corners, you know, and we might be able to find the answer to this. But I think what I love, Mark, genuinely about what you've said, and I was really listening intently to what you were saying, the words you were using, and is this thing about learning. I think when people get to a point that things change quite considerably in their world, they appreciate then the ability to learn has possibly disappeared, because you've got to a point where you just accept this is who I am, this is how I live, this is what I do. You've got your, you know, and that's where I was really. I probably could have said, yeah, I know my job, I know what I'm doing. It's, you know, it is what it is. And then one day it changed, and now my daily routine includes learning something new every day, which could be even this conversation, right? I learned
Yeah,
today that Mark had a stroke when he was 40, and that's educating me on the world that's wider than just my house, my home, my community.
yeah,
This is wide now, isn't it? And I love that, Mark, with the global community aspect, because I love to travel. I just didn't like traveling in the end because it was the thing that really hurt. You know, it was I love culture and I love
yeah,
people. And it's that, how do you reconnect or rekindle that? You know, I would love to travel more, of course I would, but now I do it on my terms, which is slightly different, I guess, to sometimes how
yeah.
some companies work with that. I genuinely find it fascinating. So
Absolutely. I think the other thing as well is we've come out the 2 years, which created a lot of I think what words can I put over the last 2 years?
just
But
maybe.
yeah, but it's like I think from a travel perspective, people have also realized that work life balance,
Yeah.
because in those 2 years, you've spent more time either with family, with friends, whereas before, actually, you were running around everywhere. You're either on a plane every week, etc. And I know, speaking to travelers as well, they don't want to get back to that.
No.
They want that work-life balance. And the novelty of flying wore off obviously a long time ago for many people, right? And it does put a lot of pressure on people. You're traveling different time zone frequently, away from family and friends, and that's what we do. We take people away from their family and friends and their social life. And people, I think, now are doing less are traveling less frequently, but for longer durations, because they don't actually want to be traveling so many times. I think people are trying to adjust their work and life in the right way. I think that's not easy, but that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think that pause did help people to sort of reconnect to some of those. My worry is that we open the gates and everybody runs through again, and they go back to the old habits,
Yeah,
behavior.
correct.
Too easy, isn't it? Because if you're allowed to and you're permitted to, you do it. And I was looking sort of at your GBTA piece around sort of raising purpose, attracting talent, and engaging the globe. And I think that's really critical right now as well, isn't it? Around, I don't know. What do you think? So here's a question for you. I didn't prompt you with this. Future generations, so the alphas, the Zeds, and stuff. What do you believe is going to be the biggest challenge for them from your perspective as well?
I think, first of all, the challenge to an industry where, if you look at the age demographic as well, and it's not just the business travel industry, it's hospitality industry as well. How do we attract talent? How do we attract talent in this industry? It affects everybody. It's not just one supplier, one sector at all. It affects us all, whether it's travel managers of the future, whether it's procurement, whether it's airlines, whether it's the whole supply chain, right? The value chain. And I think we have a lot to do. And it's how do we? I feel the wow factor of our industry isn't there. It's there, but I don't think it's visible. People don't understand what business travel is. Let's be perfectly honest, they don't. And we have a responsibility and duty to do that for the right reasons. If we don't, um, we are all going to look back and say, what a missed opportunity we had, because this is an amazing industry. It's a great industry. It's a people industry. And there are so many different roles that are available for people in our industry. It's a service industry. I always say, when, you know, uh, people who leave our industry end up going to other service areas, and they do blossom because we are a service industry. We care passionately about people. That's what we do. So, you know, business travel will evolve. Yes, technology, will play a key part, but that's an enabler. People are still important to that. So accessibility to our industry, being able to understand and what new talent, younger generations are wanting in a workplace environment as well, and the flexibility that they're looking for. We need to be able to listen, and sometimes maybe we don't do that in the right way.
Yeah,
So we need to better understand what are the requirements, what are the minimum requirements that maybe younger generation are looking for, as well, and how flexible we can be, as well. And I say, certainly haven't got a silver bullet, and certainly haven't got it, but it's an industry issue. It's an industry play, and we all have a responsibility for doing that. And we need to come together to create that wow. You know,
it's
I
true.
joined this, I joined the industry, and I care passionately about it. And many of my colleagues and people
Hmm.
that I know
Yeah.
love this industry. Yeah, but we all need to come together, and we need to find a way, and hence why that was one of my three most important aspects, that we need to find a solution, to this.
I think it's linking that to attracting and retaining talent in the industry, because there's some incredible people out there,
Oh, it
younger.
is. And
It's
really, it is extremely important that we can't just, I always I always say it's the complementary, right? Don't dismiss the experience of those who have been in the industry for a long time, and that blended complementary of people coming in with new ideas.
yeah,
Uh, that's important. Retention is extremely important, but attracting new talent is as important.
absolutely. Mark, I could just sit here and chat to you for hours about this
So
stuff.
could I, Max.
I think there's so many avenues of opportunities for the future with, with all of this stuff. And we haven't even put the frame of sort of neurodiverse talent into this as well,
Indeed.
albeit some people get like concerned about how do we help neurodiverse people. The most important thing you can remember is they have some incredible skills and talents that actually workplaces are craving right now. So, I could do an impassioned speech about why we need to invest more in this area, as much as mental health, travel well-being, physical health, and all those things. We
Yep.
are right towards the end of this, Mark. So I will have to sort of draw the
No
curtain
worries.
to this one. But the sun is setting in another country. But look, I really love this conversation genuinely, and I mean that. And I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky to hear for the first time the story. So anybody listening to this, it's been recorded, of course. So I heard it first. But it's great, and I just want to say, I'll let you have the floor for the final thoughts. I always do with my guests. If you've got a motivational quote or a life mantra or anything that you want to share, please feel free. But I I miss travel. I miss the travel industry. I do genuinely. It's not my world anymore, albeit I do step in and out. You know that. I come in and sort of fly in on my whatever mechanism it is I fly in on, and sort of stop hurting people and look after the people and think about mental health well-being as a big part of your programs. And I do miss being inside it as much as I used to be, of course. But the reality is, this world is big, and employment isn't just about traveling for work. It's everything and everything that you would do in your life. And you said it, you had a boss who went with you in an ambulance to a hospital when you fell on the floor. That, I cannot think of a better analogy or thought about how support is supposed to be. That's how I feel, right? Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing your story. Final thoughts from you, Mark? Anything?
I know, honestly, Matt, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much. And everything that you do is so important. As I said, I've listened and watched your podcast as well. And it is all about awareness. And I talked about continuous learning. Life is all about continuous learning. I can, sometimes I always say to people, just take a step back.
Yeah.
Take a step back and take in. And as I said to you before as well, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to say no. Sometimes it's okay that you don't know and you don't have the answers. Someone does, you'll know somebody, and it's the small moments that really count. And I just want to say a big thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, Matt. Thank you ever so much for
Great.
inviting me.
You're more than welcome. Look, take care of yourself. Good luck in the role of GBTA president. You thoroughly deserve getting that, because I know you and I know your passions for people, and you've got a reason why you're passionate as well, and keep that passion burning. And if ever you're starting to sort of the fire's going down, give me a shout and I'll try and motivate you with some facts and stats about this stuff. It's really useful stuff. Thank you, Mark. Take care. All the best. Safe travels to you as well, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.